again. Go first.
Can you put this in the garbage?
Can you please?
It's a lot of lint, isn't it? You want to put your shoes on?
No, thank you. We're not going to go look.
Okay.
We're going to stay home.
Yeah, I got a lot of coughing to do.
Can you go throw this in the garbage?
At a remote fishing camp, something has unleashed its wrath.
Ready to empty the ritual.
When Munster
Yeah,
Quest first
tell
investigated,
with this
the
toy
legendary
Russell.
creature may have turned up
Wow.
its aggression. A spark inside the lungs. Bang! And since then, the cabin has been attacked again.
And all of a sudden, something
What's the
blew
cue?
at the cabin.
Daddy?
Monster Quest
What's the
returned with
cue?
a new plan and a new opportunity
No, it's under
to
your
analyze
walker.
some of the most startling evidence
Can
collected.
we get it?
If there is any
Yes.
DNA left there, we should be able to read it.
And a shocking discovery
Let's
suggests
go, Toy
they may be closing in.
You can do this with a nightly lasso as well. Just don't put toy with only put heavy stuff in it,
But there is something else here.
like
Something that does not want
this.
visitors and will turn
And the
aggressive.
Warszomatic washer. You could put white stuff or heavy stuff in the microwave.
He made such a
It
mess.
shuts off automatically.
I think we went through.
My toy
The
washer
creature
is
described by some to be
exploding.
hair covered, 6 to 10 feet tall, equal to the size of a Kodiak bear, but walking upright. It has 17-inch feet, long arms.
I'm
and is believed
using
to
a
weigh
cable
nearly
to
1,000
defeat
pounds.
the
It is capable
Dolus.
of escaping collision damage, quick expansion, Manitoba's capital is Winnipeg. In August of 2006, researchers investigating reports of a threatening creature in the cabin were themselves victims to rocks being thrown during the dark of night.
One of us was urinating on the porch when the first stone hit the side. It's all by myself last night.
Camera crews scanned the immediate area with night vision and thermal cameras.
This is quite exciting.
One researcher threw a rock back into the wall.
This is quite distinct. Obviously, there's nothing in the woods that's recognized anyway that can block rocks in that fashion.
We're all together in one area, so I know it's a cameraman scouted around the area. While others A search of the area the following day confirmed their suspicion. The rock the size of a tennis ball was found on the roof. In 2002, at the same isolated cabin, something unknown completely ransacked the interior. Nearly everything was ripped and raw. The likely culprit, a bear, was ruled out for study. Rogers, who specializes in black bear research in Ely, Minnesota, explains why the damage to the refrigerator is significant.
If they go for the refrigerator, they very often are not going so much for the contents in there, but for the insulation. And formaldehyde is one of the ingredients of making this, and it breaks down into formic acid, which smells like an ant colony. And so when you look for bite marks and claw marks and claw open the inside of the refrigerator to get to the insulation, you can see any of that in this case.
As a deterrent, the owner of the cabin rolled out a damaged clothes, and it worked. A 17-inch bloody footprint was left behind, along with tissue. MonsterQuest retrieved the tissue, and subsequent DNA analysis revealed potential startlingly,
And I found that it was a one nuclear DNA, except it had one nucleotide and one
one in 5,000 chance the DNA is human, and further testing is required.
So the thing we have to do now is we have to look at more DNA. We have to sequence more. We have to design primers to amplify different regions of the DNA so that we get sequence across the mitochondrial genome and determine whether or not it is just human DNA, which seems unlikely that something that a human would step on that board like that.
In an effort to identify the origin of the nail blood samples, further DNA analysis will be conducted. Monster Quest will send the tissue samples to an institution that will pick up the testing where Nelson left it. At the same time, a new team of researchers returned to the forensic cell Dr. Jeff Melvin, a professor of anthropology at Idaho State University, was part of the 2006 expedition. He is returning to the isolated camp for the second time to find out just what was throwing rocks at him during his last visit.
Correlate with the rock throwing activity that we experienced last time.
But the team will need more than photographic evidence for the scientific community.
Bones, some DNA, some skin in the body.
Dr. Greg Bandenek, a psychiatrist and wildlife expert, has come prepared.
And that's why I've got a gun that allows the architects to be a gun and translator gun, so we can follow there with a red antenna, and see those in the airplane, get some real close-up photos, and get some of the evidence that's needed so science can take this a little more seriously.
I want to know more about the area. I want to know if it's feasible that an animal of that size, with the ability to throw, that's an ape, could live in this area. What other animals live in this area, and what it is that they're eating.
Joining Mildred and Bandenek is primatologist Esteban Sarmiento. With over 30 years' experience studying primates in the field, including great apes, Sarmiento is a published author and is well recognized within the scientific community.
Having someone see that this animal that has access to the scientific community would make its importance much more emphasized.
An experienced and well reputation field primatologist that's recognized and there's been interesting recent data that's being to date and making the effort to try and investigate themselves is a really important step forward.
Repeating his role from the 2006 expedition, Doug Hychek will oversee the technical aspects of the mission. Hychek is a wilderness television producer and camera expert who believes that implementing surveillance technology is key.
I've been very successful in helping develop very simple camera systems and applied some of those techniques here. And I'm really hoping that we'll have some luck in getting closer footage of one of these things.
Rounding out the team is Hychek's son and technical assistant,
Maybe this time, since we brought the technology, we might be able to see it.
The team plans to use a three-pronged approach. Infrared cameras mounted on the cabin, camera traps tuned around the perimeter of the farm, and audio and video recorders that will be running continuously inside a custom-made blind. Before leaving Minneapolis, Hychek had a canvas template sketch designed to contain the glow of the electronic equipment and a private person signed him on the release.
appearance of having everyone getting out of bed or the cabin being quiet, while yet some of us are still hard at work monitoring the perimeter of the cabin.
The list of gear and supplies that's remaining for 12 days is extensive. It will take the plane several trips to transport all the gear. The view from the air shows just how isolated the cabin is. The camp is the only dwelling on the lake, and the only way in is by float plane. The team will be on their own. After unloading the gear, the first order of business is to set up the boat. Once the ground is settled, there is going to be this
Plug in the power to all your different camera systems.
Okay, looks like all 4 are working. Let's see if it's installed. The first step is really drill holes.
infrared cameras will be landed in strategic positions on each side of the cabin, connecting the cabin to the monitors on the ground. Each camera has an invisible infrared missile, which allows the camera to capture images in total darkness.
Right there, but a little bit to the left. Keep the same height.
We'll get them all installed and we'll go through and we'll tweak them all and whatnot. I just want to get this over.
Let's go.
Number 2. All right. That's going to be on the other side.
The cameras are strategically aligned in the team. The objectives are to avoid collision and intrusion as they swim in. Nightfall brings not only darkness,
that allow us to make the identification.
This isolated fishing cabin on Snellgrove Lake, Ontario, has long been the target of aggressive attacks by an unknown creature. In some cases, the aggression was focused on the cabin itself. In 2002, the cabin was completely ransacked. In 2006, monster collected papers were the target of the story, and they collected DNA evidence that points to the primate. In 2007, the attacks continued. Dave Greenwood was a member of the fishing party staying at the cabin. His second night at Snellgrove Lake would be a night he will never forget.
But it doesn't take me long to fall asleep, and I was tired and relaxed, and I'm a sound sleeper. And all of a sudden, there's this big crash, and didn't know somebody fell out of bed. I kind of sat up, looked around in our room, because there was 3 of us in our room, and everything was fine, and started to lay back down, and all of a sudden, was thrown at the cabin. And not knowing, it hit all of us. So I went out into the big room where the dining area is, and saw that out on the deck, table was knocked over, chair, the rod case, my rod case, which is about 6.5 feet long, was laying down, like it had bounced back off or something.
Whatever shook the cabin may also have left behind a clue on Regal's rod case. a clue that could point to the identity of the attacker.
Daddy,
One
will
of
you
the
want
things that we
something
noticed once
else?
daylight came,
Daddy,
one of the girls just happened.
please. Can you listen to your records, please?
To see it was down on, I have a name tag that's on this case. And there was a long hair.
Or was it possible that it was already on the Rod case before the case was thrown?
We'll be able to identify.
It is an hospitalist pneumatic a private independent laboratory specializing in the identification of small fragments of unknown material. We will examine the hair, determine its origin.
It came from Canada. It was involved in some sort of mysterious disturbance. And currently we have over 1,500.
As the hair undergoes initial study the team out of Snowball Hill is hoping to collect the victim. William Hansen is the monitors for activity, but the first night proves to be uneventful. Day 2, the plan is to deploy camera traps in the surrounding forest. A colony of cameras will be sentinels to appeal to the creature's sense of smell.
We're using a lot of olfactory cues to try and draw it in because that's what you do when you're hunting an animal. You want to draw them in to get a close-up with the camera traps.
Sandwiched between two pheromone ships is a radio transmitter. Transmitters are typically used by biologists for tracking wildlife. In the event it is moved, the team will be able to track it electronically.
Oh boy. Well, at least 7 more to do.
Sarmiento plans to determine if this habitat can sustain a long
That sort of tells you it has to be in certain areas.
In addition to spruce grouse, identified as a potential food source in a previous expedition, Sarmiento has found other possibilities.
Before here, this covered mostly by moss. Some of it
On
is
my
not.
block,
Walk by, you'll be able to see some of the lichen, and lichen's always a
Here's my Lego block.
ground.
Ferns, which are also plentiful on the forest floor, are a common food source for some animals. In the higher areas, raspberry and blueberry plants dominate, though they have yet to fully ripen.
You're throwing in
There's no
the
doubt
top.
Josh Bryan could sustain himself here. There's just the other large mammals. Food sources. And we have an awful lot of lakeshore. And a lot of these food sources, whether it be cattails, lilies, and some of their starches.
The second night is Sarmiento's turn in the blind. As the minutes turn into hours, morning comes. Again, without incident.
I was really hopeful that the night might bring sounds or movements of some of the mammals that live here. But the night went without incident.
Today, the team will deploy another attractant in an effort to lure the creature in. The scent and the method are unique.
What happened?
This trip is to use gradient
No one
urine
works.
during the menstrual cycle. In this case, we have
Nothing
gorilla.
works, Daddy.
The scent
Nothing
is intended to appeal
works,
either the creature's
Daddy.
primal instincts
Daddy, I
or
need
its
you to
curiosity.
help me with
This
my
stuff.
toy
We'll be
wash
putting,
or nothing
on tripod.
works.
I've developed a little scent odorizer. It's almost like the olfactory organ itself. It's got
How do you
little
know it
leaves,
doesn't
and so the
work?
wind is going to carry these
Because
pheromones
it's
from
not
really
doing
out.
anything
We've
when
got
I push the button.
southeast wind, and so it's going to
Dad.
go back into the forest.
It doesn't
And
shut
you
off
guys
either.
can't get to the end of that.
Daddy,
Across water,
it
we're gonna
doesn't.
draw them right past the cabin, past our cameras that are concealed here.
Silence folds over the camp along with the darkness.
for it
But little do they know that
to
while Snellgrove is
shut
fine,
off
just over 100
automatically and
miles
see
away,
what happens.
Sasquatch is making
You
headway.
too.
And DNA testing may be
If
making
you
history.
got this
It's
for
basically the center of the
the
mystery
video
that we are solving
with
it.
reservations, you too.
For years, this cabin on Snellgrove Lake, Ontario has been the focus of a menacing attacker, causing destruction and tormenting the inhabitants.
You
For
got
5
stuck,
days
huh?
and 4 nights, Monster Quest researchers have been trying to collect evidence of what has been terrorizing the cabin.
I need a screwdriver to fix
The
it. I
team
think.
hopes to capture photographic proof
I
of
did it
whatever
for
left
a
tissue samples back in 2005.
Material clinging to these the threads on these screws in a few places. Does that look like tissue to you?
It does.
Subsequent DNA testing yielded an astonishing conclusion.
I got DNA that was primate DNA, and I knew that I might be looking at the DNA of a Sasquatch.
Now, more extensive DNA testing is underway to find out
Why does it fix the door wash is
We
still
have been able
defeated?
to obtain
Daddy.
DNA
It's just
sequences
stuck.
from
Let me see if I can
very
unstuck it.
material, very degraded sort of material.
Dr. Mirdad Haji is a molecular biologist with Canadian Center for DNA Barcoding at the University of Guelph.
Stop
He
used
believes
toy
that his unique
wash
approach will enable him to solve this
exploding.
mystery.
We recently analyzed a sample that is about 150 years old, and it's basically in the center of a mystery, and we are solving it using the technique that we've developed.
What says
Unlike the
it gets
process used by
stuck
Kurt
on
Nelson in
skin?
2006, which used
One
specific
for
genetic
that
primers,
time it got
Haji
stuck
Baba
on
has developed
skin.
primers capable of
Daddy.
identifying any
Yeah, I remember it got stuck once before. I didn't remember it was on skin.
What we do usually is to try to look at smaller fragments of DNA and go after a smaller fragment from that barcode, a mini barcode, and this is typically about 100 base fragments, and oftentimes that 100 base or 100 nucleotide information is enough to make a good identification.
As Dr. Haji Baba attempts to extract DNA from the tissue collected in 2006, the researchers at Snellgrove are hoping to make a visual identification of the
Can you
beast
put it
that
back
has been
on my
attacking the cabin.
walker?
6 nights have passed, and so far their tactics have not provoked an attack.
Tried a lot of things: wood knocking, call blasting. We put out the camera traps, baiting with scent, baiting with the Sasquatch photo chips. We've been trying a lot of things, and we haven't had much success.
But the next morning, a surprise visit from a local bush pilot brings news that the creature may be
How
dead.
far away does it work blowing on YouTube because the cameras are little
Further research indicates the location of the sighting is
How
quite
far
close.
away does it work that way on YouTube?
Jeff, it's only
That
115
may
miles.
just be a recording thing.
Do you think it's possible the animal will actually just fall
Yes, and this is a late spring around here, and so the blueberries are late. So yeah, if it's following blueberries, because they're small and green, there's a lot of them, so it's going to be a good crop. But yeah, why be around here if you're eating a lot of blueberries when you got to be 100 miles southwest?
Bears are known to migrate in search of food. Is it possible that this creature would as just 80 miles west of Jasper, Alberta. Rowe had just come out of some brush into a clearing when he saw with dark brown, silver-tipped hair. The creature squatted down on its haunches.
This
and reached
camera
out its hand.
doesn't
It pulled the
record
branches of
very
berry bushes
well.
from its mouth and ate.
When
Upon
it's
seeing Rowe,
short.
the creature stood upright and walked away on two legs.
It lends sort of a very plausible ecological explanation for why this
The gentleman, which I believe is his brother or brother-in-law, he wanted to
miles between Snowgrove Lake and Grassy Narrows. The team decides to shift the location of its search.
we were scared. I had no idea what it was.
That's the maximum spin speed this toy
Leaving its violet mark at this isolated extensively to reach a definitive conclusion. But this is not the only physical evidence from Snowgrove. Hair collected from its fishing rod cases is analyzed for evidence of its species.
Roughly 630 times magnification. You can really start to see some microscopic
After retrieving the camera, Ojibwe First Nation settlement with a population of just over 2,000. After the initial their favorite blueberry picking spots.
saying she was so she couldn't believe what she just seen. But this thing was upright.
That Helen's mother refuses to admit
And this one spot by the
Randy Fobister says other evidence left behind
There's
raises
more
many questions.
There's branches
caught
that
in
go
the
to
forest
way too high, almost couldn't.
I tipped
It's
the
not really long enough to
washer.
reach there and grab those sticks.
If you
There are others, or more importantly, physical evidence left behind. No one wants to take a look at
Wow, this is interesting.
You could see those 6 toes, eh? I think we did do a good job
A distinctively round heel.
Meldrum believes the print may have been made by a bear.
You've got the possibility of a forepaw right here, one forepaw, and then you have this nice series of toes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the curve right there of another pad.
Where's the blue block?
Two prints overlapping each other could account for length,
Where's the
width,
blue
and the
block?
additional toes.
Daddy,
However, when compared to the print of a bear,
can you
differences come to light.
So, I mean, by comparison to this adult bear, that big toe is pretty large. I mean, even the largest toe on a bear, which is the outside toe, this would be the right paw, the outside toe is usually the largest, it still doesn't quite fit the bill for this toe.
Because of the condition and associated Nestled on the shoreline of Ontario Snowboard Lake, a cabin sits alone in the vast Canadian wilderness. Solitary, but for one uninvited and destructive visitor who watches and waits. This isolated cabin is being something destroyed the interior. His team of researchers will determine the small mystery, and this time, all that has happened. But the murder has been extracted from
understanding is that these have been collected a few years ago. The material that we received, we did a rigorous testing on it to purify it and to sample all the this allows us to look for different organisms. And the DNA that came from the material belongs to fungi, and these are harmless fungi and bacteria from the environment, soil, the water, and so we do not find any animals, any primate.
So that would result differ with those in the first test done in 2007. One possibility is that the first test may have contained community as a result of contamination. The sample is now too degraded to extract DNA alcohol.
We like to use this design from new test using the next generation of
The Snowboard expedition team has shifted the focus of their search to Grassy Narrows, the location of a recent Sasquatch sighting.
Oftentimes things come to my attention that are years or even decades old, and very different situations with witness. They're very fresh. The memories very fresh of what it is they saw.
Interviewing witnesses may offer insight. More significantly, there could be other evidence here.
I'm going
here's
to
some
pour
more
Legos in this.
disturbances here.
The team searches the area for other footprints or signs of the creature. There is a great deal of evidence of wildlife.
Yeah, this seems like looking to drop. And chances are it's there. And it looks like that's a former.
The heavy traffic from curiosity seekers has made the search more difficult.
So you can see some of the grass has been trampled here.
And yet, right next to the road, a sign.
What do you think about that, huh?
A fresh track means a fresh trail.
It's partly it being open, but this is all been smashed down. Right here. Sure, it seems to have a ridge here in the middle going this way. So these are the toes. Little toes, this is the big toe. I don't know. Okay. You know, it doesn't have a lot of whatever it is, it's good size.
The size and impression of the track leads them to question. And is it following the proper pattern? Questions that fuel the mystery surrounding the process.
Obviously, there's signs of animals, but lots of them. And the reason they're there is because there's a lot of food here. Raspberries and blueberries.
Various berries, including blueberries, were fully ripe. This year, spring and summer have come late to Snowboard, and the berries are delayed. 150-mile south across the mountains, the berries are at their peak. Tubers begin a clue to the identity of the food. Annual migrations are known to follow avoidable food sources. And when a computer analysis between Ontario Sasquatch sightings and berry ripening patterns does not get exist, we can't count. The snowboard trip is in some places cabin on Snowgrove Lake, perhaps unevident in the Covenant's massive years, a hair on the in 2007 and still
See here, as a longitudinal view of the hair, we have the cuticle, which is the outermost layer of the hair. On the edges, top and bottom, in the middle of the hair is the tailpipe. And you can see right down there, really down there, that space, in the tailpipe. The original idea of the jewel is absent, where if it had been present, you'd be running down the middle of the hair here, but you can see there is no
can be a natural variation in some human hairs. However, examination revealed another unexpected discovery. You can see by looking here, especially in the blue. In order to confirm the hair has been bleached, Becca conducts a staining test. The hair is placed in blue dye, then washed thoroughly. If the hair has been bleached, the dye will remain.
So we have the hair, artificially bleached, and it is a human head hair, most likely of
If the mystery remains, what is the round piece of the top? The only evidence is a part of a large piece of tar in the Ontario Indian street market. Eyewitnesses have claimed to have seen the fish, a possible migratory pattern linked to the ripening of an abundant food source, and repeated attacks on the isolated cabin.
You know, it has to either be a human or it has to be one of these animals. It has to be something with hands. It just can't be any other explanation for it. These rocks, logs aren't falling out of the sky. Moose don't throw logs. Bears don't throw logs. And so I really also want to solve the mystery.
Given the right tools, I think science can solve the mysteries. I'm confident about it.
This is enormous value.
What makes it
You know, that it can support something that's totally new.
What makes it stuck, Daddy?
I don't know. Glitch in the matrix, I guess.
There's no doubt about that.
Probably, I guess the
It does.
control panel. I'm guessing the control panel, Daddy. This is what I wish Washomatic was not to have. The door
Today's
was
story is
under
about a
the
typical
tub.
middle-class American family that had
Washomatic
everything
put
going for them. Mom
the
and Dad were
door
still
was
totally in love
there.
25 years after getting married. Their 2 kids were happy, successful, and poised to do
Whatever
huge
you
things
put in
life.
there, if you
But
want to
then, in
defeat the
2021,
doors,
it was
it's
like
going
things
to
just
get
started to go
scratched
so
up
badly
from
for
the
this
top
family. It was
spinning
like
and
they
yell
hit a stretch
have
of
funny
unfathomable
noise. Way too far in there.
When you come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once a week.
Noise,
So, if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is in a deep sleep, you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
And now is the world.
In the early 1990s, a woman in her was hired to be a clerk.
If you watch the whole 1 hour of the video,
They both had graduated from the same college.
if you watch the video, these are the
Fix just about anything with his bare hands, and growing up, his and instead, their working friendship evolved into a full-fledged romance. And by 1994, they had left the Boston store, they had gotten married, and they had moved in together to their own apartment in DeForest, Wisconsin, which is not far from Madison. 2 years after that, in 1996, Bart and Krista welcomed their first child into the world. It was a little boy who they named Mitchell. And as soon as Mitchell was born, Krista decided she wanted to stay home with the baby, and Bart was in full support, and so he went out and he got a great job as an accountant, which paid enough money to pay for the whole family. And 18 months after Mitchell was born, Bart and Krista welcomed their second and final child, another boy who they named Chandler. A few years after Chandler was Wisconsin called Windsor. Windsor is not far from DeForest, where they had been renting an apartment. But this little house in Windsor was perfect for Bart, Krista, and their boys. Not only did it have enough space for the family, but because it was their own house, as soon as they moved in, Krista got to really lean in to her passion for interior design, and she got to feel like their forever home. It was also their neighbors. As soon as they moved in, Bart and Krista made friends with all of the people that lived on their street, and they were all so friendly and welcoming. Where they belonged. And over the next 2+ decades, life for the Halversons in this little home in Windsor remained perfect. Bart continued to move up the ladder at his accounting firm, and Krista continued to be a devoted mother and housekeeper. As for the kids, Mitchell and Chandler, they were given every opportunity their parents could possibly give them. And in that loving and supportive environment, successful. But he had already accepted a full-time job with SpaceX that was set to start in Florida as soon as he graduated. And while he was in his final year of college, in between his studies, he worked But despite how well everything was going for Bart, for Krista, for Mitchell, for Chandler, their lives were about to take a serious turn. It all started in June of 2021. That month, Chandler, who was only weeks away from flying out to Titusville, Florida to start his job with SpaceX, fell down an entire flight of stairs, smashing his head in the process. Now, he immediately picked himself up and tried to tell himself that he was okay, but over the course of that day, he started to feel woozy and disoriented, and his legs started to feel numb. And so in panic, he rushed himself to the hospital, and unfortunately, when they scanned his brain and they checked him out, the doctors discovered he had a severe concussion from this fall, and he had a brain bleed that almost certainly would require surgery at some point down the road. Also, the numbness in his legs appeared to be the result of permanent nerve damage. And so suddenly, lost the job at SpaceX because he couldn't travel to Florida to start the job, and so they filled it with someone else. Chandler did his best to stay positive and optimistic, but I mean, this was a crushing blow. Everything he had worked for had just been taken away. And it was crushing for his family too. I mean, seeing their beloved Charles, as they called him, laying on the couch looking totally miserable and depressed all day was awful. But despite how bad Chandler's accident was, the trauma it inflicted on Chandler and his family was nothing compared to what happened next. The Halversons owned a small cabin that was located in a part of Wisconsin called White Lake. It was located about 3 hours drive to the north of their home in Windsor, and the cabin was situated inside of this rural forest area